Good afternoon and welcome to another XP Solutions XP webinar. I'll be your host for today, XP John. Today's webinar is on ARR Made Easy. Now, for those of you joining us for the first time, and while we're waiting for the last few stragglers to sign in, just give you a bit of an overview of what we do here at XP Solutions, some of the products we have on offer. Now, many of you are probably aware of XP Rafts, which is our 1D hydrology tool. We also have XP Swim and XP Storm, which are our integrated 1D hydrology and hydraulics tool. And now it can also come with the XP 2D hydraulics module. Now, if you feel like asking a question any time during today's webinar, you can either use the GoToWebinar interface, or you can send us an email at apaceducation@xpsolutions.com. Now, we have a no question goes unanswered policy here at XP. So any question you ask will be completely anonymous, and we will guarantee to give you an answer within the next 24 hours, no matter how difficult the question. So as we mentioned before, my name's John. I'm Sir Jonathan Clarick. I'm the mathematician and engine developer here at XP Solutions. So I'm the lucky chap who gets to write and maintain the engine for both XP Swim, XP Storm, and XP Rafts. Joining me today, we have our trainer and engineer, Sophia Buchanan. How's it going, Soph?
Good, thanks, John. Hi guys, thanks for joining us. So as John said, I'm the ANZ trainer and engineer. So I look after the whole of Australia. So I spend about 50% of the time out of the office going around talking to other people in the industry, finding out what everyone's up to. These little green dots on the map are the kind of places and people that I speak to. And so at the end of last year, when the Stream Rainfall and Runoff 2016 came out, I started to get a lot of questions from people wondering how to implement it, when they should implement it, should they read it, where should they start. It's a huge, huge book and a lot of reading to do. So we found that, a lot of people didn't know how to do it, and people had some serious questions. And that's just not my personal opinion. So you might have remembered last year, John and myself did a webinar on stream rainfall and runoff, and it had over 1,200 respondents. And what we found was only about 13% were actually using ARR. So this really, brought it home to XP that you guys needed some encouragement and some help to try and implement this stuff.
Alrighty, Soph. So just to get started, we're going to do another quick poll just to find out why aren't the industry currently, so what's preventing you from using ARR 2016?
Yeah, so guys, this is completely anonymous, so don't stress about your answers. We're not going to judge you here.
No, I mean, you will be graded at the end of today's webinar. No, just kidding, guys. It's completely anonymous, but we would like a bit of feedback. What is preventing you from doing an ARR, from implementing ARR 2016 right now in your models and jobs today? So we'll just give you a bit of time just to answer that.
So it looks like we've got a pretty even spread here, John.
Just going to pop up the results there, Soph. Nice. All right, cool. So we've got, let's have a look.
Well, it looks like not many people think it's too hard, so that's good to start with.
That's a very good sign. It's a nice change from last year, where we had, as you saw, 2/3 of people either hadn't read the book or weren't actually using it in their daily jobs.
Yeah, that's a huge, huge improvement. And so we've got, about half still trying to get their head around it. So hopefully this webinar, will help along those lines.
Sounds good. All right, well, just I guess that leads into our next question is, so why should people be using ARR 2016 right now? Well, ironically enough, the answer to that question is actually in ARR 2016. And it says in the book, Australian Rainfall and Runoff aims to provide the best available information on flood design estimation. Right? Now, think about it. You walk into a job, or if you're talking to your clients, do you want to be telling them, oh, yep, I'm using the best available information, the best available science, the most up-to-date technology, the most recent data, or I'm using data from 30 years ago based on technology before we even had computers capable of doing 2D models?
Yeah, so John, as a practicing engineer, we're actually held to a higher standard than the general public on this kind of thing. we're actually obligated to use the current best practice for our jobs. So to use data that's, 30 years old and practices of 30 years old, we could really be deemed negligible for doing that kind of thing.
That's right, Soph. You've definitely taken on a lot of risk when it's not that difficult to implement the most recent science.
That's right. And when things go wrong, which they do, we're dealing with an uncertain climate and, variability in the real world. Where things go wrong and cases end up in court, I personally wouldn't like to be standing there and say, I did not use the current best practice.
Now, see this gentleman here, guys? That's a guy, he once used the rational method and boom, 2 months later, he's getting to work rowing down the main street in a bathtub.
Bathtub or fridge, whatever your interpretation is. But in all seriousness, guys, we really need to prevent this kind of thing happening. Or at the very least, we need to be aware of what could likely happen. So to do that, we now have that data, we have the software, we have the hardware. So let's go and do it.
Right. Now, we've gone out, we've read the book for you, we've spoken to both the ARR committee, we've spoken to practitioners, and we've taken the thing and we've gone, all right, what's the best way to implement ARR 2016 that actually is going to meet, that industry is actually going to be able to want to pick it up and run with it as quickly as possible. So we've given ourselves the 3 main goals to achieve this. And first goal is we want to be able to make this as fast and as efficient as the 87 methods. And we want it to be as easy to set up and easy to run. So you're not going to be too problematic compared to the way you're all used to doing it. We also want to be true to the guidelines and true to the updated science. So we want to be able to maintain this commitment that what you're doing with ARR 2016 in our software is actually true to the guidelines as if you're doing it straight out of the book.
Yeah, so on that, John, we're really trying to use the same, terminology, the same kind of diagrams and things, so that when you actually go back to the book, you feel more comfortable with it. You know where you're going.
Yeah, so you have the confidence to be able to go, yep, I can read the book, I can see what my model's doing, and we've got a good alignment between the two. And lastly, we want to maintain that integrated hydrology and hydraulics approach that XP is famous for and the book recommends.
Exactly.
So, as I said, we've read the book, we've done the interpretations, we've done the hard yards thinking about this stuff for you, and what we think is we've managed to boil down the essence of ARR into 7 quick and easy steps to implement in a model.
Yeah, so this is our interpretation of what we think you guys need to do to just get to that basic level of ARR 2016.
Now, first step is go out and get your data. Now, luckily, the ARR committee have given you this beautiful tool called the ARR Data Hub. Now, the best thing about this is it's no more reading off maps or dodgy little pixelated, photocopies of a copy of the 87 methods. You can go in there, you put in your latitude, longitude of your site of interest, and you get location-specific information. Now, for most people, that'll be getting your ensembles, your pre-birth steps, any initial continuing losses. So like an initial estimate of initial and continual losses. For the bigger people, for the bigger models, or if you're doing you need to build structures that are going to be lasting a long time, you've also got things like area reduction factors and potential climate change factors you need to take into consideration. Step 2 is the last piece of the puzzle you need to get data is you need to go to the Bureau of Meteorology and get the IFD, the Intensity Frequency Data, the latest updated 2016 edition. Step 3, now that you've got all your information, you need to make some engineering decisions. You need to decide what AEPs do I need to run. Yeah,
John, so a typical engineering project, you would do, say, a development. You're looking at urban areas, you might have a minor AEP of, say, 10% and a major AEP of, say, 1 or 2%.
Nice.
So you maybe don't need to run all the AEPs.
All right, well, step 4 is now you start building up your hydrology model. Now, for many of you, you probably may think, oh, yep, this is where I just jump out on the hand calcs and start doing the rational method. Fortunately, guys, rational method is now limited to only size of 1 lot. Now, so for many jobs, that'll completely rule it out, but that's not really the way that's not much of a change, is it though, Soph?
No, so what they've done is they've really just kind of honed in on those problems that you can get with the rational method. You know, things like, you know, where the rational method's really only for an estimate of peak flow. So anything with volume, hydraulic structures that are going to change those kind of patterns, the rational method was never any good anyway.
Yeah. So it's basically just taken what people should have been doing and just enshrined that into the guidelines now.
Yeah. So the rational method is still there.
Sure.
It's just got a lot more, you know, bounds around it and how to use it.
Yeah, nice. So step 5, now you've got your hydrology model, you can build in your hydraulic components. So this is where you add in your pits, your pipes, any storage or detention basins you think you're going to need, and start building up that integrated hydrology and hydraulics approach. Step 6, solve the model. Now, I'm sure this is probably scaring a lot of people, thinking that, oh no, I've got 10 times the patterns, everything going to take 10 times longer to solve. Well, yes and no. I mean, it is potentially 10 times longer to solve, but most of us will have a multi-core machine now, so we could potentially take advantage of multiple cores running at once, and at the end of the day, it's just the computer solving away. You're not sitting there solving the models yourself, are you, Sol?
No, so this is actually, I quite like this, is because now I can actually go and have my lunch break while the model's solved rather than getting up and having a quick stretch. So yes, it does take 10 times longer to solve, but you're not really doing any more work.
Yeah. So it's mostly the computer doing more work, but not us.
Yep.
That's the dream.
But we do have one more step.
Yeah. So this is the fun part. This is one of my favourite parts, but you may not all agree with me. So is now you actually have to do a bit of statistics.
So John, this is really scaring me. I haven't done stats in the last 10 years, and even when I did them, they definitely weren't my favourite thing to do.
Oh, you sure, Soph? I thought everyone loves mathematics and stats.
No, that's just you, John.
Yeah, that's just me. That's all right, guys. We've sat down, we've actually implemented the stats ourselves for you. So basically, we've done to take all your results and be able to compile them in simple, easy to understand statistics and simple and easy to understand diagrams and graphs that you can convey in easy ways. So basically, take all the nastiness out. You just have to sit back and enjoy make the engineering judgments rather than sitting there doing all the stats.
I'm really happy that you've done that, John.
Happy to help, Soph. But anyway, that's enough theory from me. I'm going to hand you guys over to Sophia, and she's going to run through a bit of the practice.
Yeah, typical mathematician, gets the theory out of the way, hands the real project work over to the engineer. So I'll just swap my screens here, get up a project.
All right, so we're just going to flick over to the software, give you a bit of a live run through of how ARR 2016 looks in the latest version of XP Swim.
Yeah, so here we've got a really typical kind of development site. This was actually one it's a little bit older, so I built it in the 87 methods. We've got, you know, your catchments, some road pits, all leading down into your detention basin, which you really see common in development sites trying to limit that peak flow.
Nice.
So in this kind of setup, this kind of project, obviously we can't be using the rational method. Never could, now we can't either. So I'm just going to go through those 7 steps. So if you remember back to John's theory, the first step was to go to that ARR data hub and get some data. So I'm just going to go over to our global storms dialog box and come down to a new feature, which is our storm generator. And to load the ARR data, we just go to this load button. So we've got 2 options here. If you're not running on the internet, so you're offline, you can actually just go and get your data somewhere else and load it straight in. But if you're connected to the internet, we've actually added this little feature so you don't even have to go to the data hub. You could just go straight into the software and load it straight in. So I'm going to come and find my site here. We're in Brisbane. So you can see that populating the long and lat. Go OK. And we're just waiting for that data to be fed in. And that will automatically populate. So if we take a look at that data, we've got all sorts of things. We've got the pre-bursts, the losses. We've got a whole lot of temporal patterns here. And that's what we want to see. So then the second step, that last piece of the puzzle, was to go and get the BOM IFDs. So unfortunately, we haven't been able to automate this process as much just yet, but we do populate that long and lat. So I'll just give this a label.
Don't forget to tick on the agree button, Soph.
That's right. I've read my terms and conditions previously.
Great reading for a Friday afternoon.
Now, something that's quite important here, guys, is the standard durations that come up in the bond standard site don't actually match the standard durations you need to run based on ARR. So, you might notice things like the 25-minute, the 45-minute, they're missing. So to add them, we just type in these in here and we hit update, and we can see those have been updated. So we do that and we just go up here and hit download, and that downloads to our computer. So then I come back into my software and need to go and find that file. So we've got Brisbane here, go OK and hit OK. So now you can see that those AEPs and those durations have all been automatically populated based on the temporal patterns that are available from the data hub and the durations that are available from the BOM. So I'm running that small subdivision. Now remember, step 3 was to decide what AEPs you're going to run. So I'm going to pick the 10% of the 1% here. So what I do there is I just turn those two on. And it's a small subdivision, so the durations, we don't really need to be running 24 hours. So we can probably limit these ones to just a few going here. And what we then want to do is just generate the data. So there's a whole lot of advanced functionality in here for people that want to get into the nitty-gritty things. So we can customize the storm names, we can apply ARFs, we can apply pre-burst, and that base multiplier we can apply some climate change scenarios.
Yep. Climate change or sensitivity analysis if you wanted to as well.
Yeah, so we might jump back to that later on if we've got time, but I'll leave that for now. So what we do is we hit generate. We can see that that's been exported, and if I hit the summary there, we can have a look. So we've got all these temporal patterns now, and you can see that the ensembles, so those 10 different storms for each duration, each AEP, have actually been populated there. So if I go back into the model here, I'm just going to have a look at the global data to check that that's come in. So under that global data, here we go, I can see all my rainfall. So if we wanted to have a look at any of the patterns, we can actually do that just by graphing them here. All right, so that covers off our first 3 steps. We've brought in our ARR data hub, we've got the IFDs, we've chosen our AEPs. Now we need to build the hydrology and the hydraulic model. So luckily for me, this is the one I prepared earlier, so we don't actually need to do this. So we can skip to step 6, which is actually solve the model. So in XP, we would just go down here, analyze, and we've actually got a new feature in 2017.1, so we can parallelize those solves. So the more cores you've got, the quicker you can run these things.
Yep.
So I've actually solved this one previously. It actually only takes about 10 minutes, I think, to solve those different AEP durations.
So approximately how many storms was that? Was it about 200 or so, wasn't it? So
I think it's about 80.
About 80? Oh, nice. And that was concurrently, wasn't it? Was that concurrent or consecutive?
So I've got 2 cores, so I could solve 2 at a time.
2, beautiful.
Yep. All right, so we've got the data, we've built the model, we've solved it. First thing I'm going to do is go and have a quick look at the results. So I'm just going to have a look at the results down at this last link into the basin. So if I can graph those, holy moly, we've got all the storms coming up here, which is a little bit hard to interpret. So if you were going for the 87 method, the first thing you would do, zoom in here, have a look at your peak flow, and that would be the storm that you run for your design, right? Little bit different now because remember we've got that extra step of doing the stats. So what we have done here, just to make it a bit simpler, is you can graph the ensembles one by one. So you can see all those patterns for that one ensemble. So John, your favourite part, we're going to have a look at some stats. So to do that, we've built some great little tools here. We've got the ARR stats utility. So if I click on that one, you can see all our different AEP and durations. And we can see the values here. We've got the mean, the median, the min, and the max. So there's been a little bit of conversation about whether we pick the mean or the median. You know, I think we've kind of found that the upper median is probably the best way to go,
Yep.
But we leave that completely up to you. So we've given you all the data you need.
Yeah. So we still give you the power if you decide to go which one's more applicable to make the engineering judgment. Do I take the mean? Do I take the median? It's still there. There's generally pretty good agreement usually between what pattern is closest to or closest but just above the mean and median.
Yeah.
So that's I call that the upper median, which is just of the two middle patterns, it's just the one above the median. And similar with the mean, it's just the pattern that is just above the average. But yeah, you may decide, okay, maybe I don't want that. Maybe I want a bigger pattern for critical infrastructure. You may want the max. Again, the judgment's in your hands, but all the statistics are there provided for you.
Yeah, and maybe you want to have a look at, you know, what the freeboard is that you're applying to this project, and does the maximum actually exceed that? So you might want to, you know, hone in on those things. So with the 87 method, you would just be looking at your different AEP and durations, and you would be picking the maximum. What we're going to do now is we're going to go to the median column, and we're going to pick the maximum from there. So people that like to look at numbers, I can have a quick look here, and you can see that the 10-minute storm is actually critical here. But if you want someone that's a bit more visual, what we've done is we've gone and given you a box and whisker plot. So clearly the red lines are the medians. So what we're doing is we're looking for the highest red line, right? Yep. We can see here, it's on that first one, and we come down here, that's that 10-minute storm.
Beautiful. So now I know exactly what ensemble, what collection 10 storms to run if I want to pass that to the 2D model.
Exactly. And guess what? I've actually prepared that one too.
Brilliant.
So once you've got your storm, you can just refine your model up, and you might just want to run that one and maybe a few either side. And what we can do here is just have a look at the results.
So we just go to 2D results and tick it on. Beautiful. You see a nice bit of representation of where the peak flooding is going to be.
Yeah, so this is this minor storm event. So I'm actually quite happy with the flow widths in there. Often you'll see once you turn it into that 2D model, you might actually see something that you didn't realise was going to happen. So really good idea, I think. Once you're happy with your model, do a quick 2D model, make sure there's nothing out of place, then you're good to go.
Brilliant.
So that's it, guys. That's really, you know, the 7 steps in a real model. That's what you need to do. So we'll flick back to the slides and go from there.
Awesome. All right. Well, now as you've seen, guys, we've managed to demonstrate how you'd update an 87 model to the new improved 2016 methods. So in the space of about, half an hour, today's webinar, we've managed to be able to go take a model, download the data, update the hydrology, run it, and do one of the statistics just as easy as it was an 87 method. Yeah,
so John, the only difference there is I didn't actually run the model, so we didn't have time for that cup of tea break.
That's all right. There's always lunch. But anyway, guys, so I hope we've managed to show you that it's not that scary to be able to implement ARR 2016 methods, science into your models on a daily basis. Just before we do that, guys, we're going to ask you one more quick question just to get a bit of a gauge. So it's, when do you predict you'll be using ARR 2016 methodologies in your next project? So we just want to gauge just a bit of an idea of, well, how long do you think it's going to take for you to start adopting this type of methodology in your day-to-day work? Will it be now? Will it be the next 6 months? Maybe you think it's still a fair while away, there's too many unanswered questions or whatever.
Alrighty, let's have a look at the results there. About half of you think that you'll be, using this in the next 3 to 6 months, which I think is really promising for the industry. We really need to get on top of this. It's been out for, what, 8 months now?
Something like that. The data was finally released late last year, so it's been 6 months at least since since our last webinar. So there's no real excuses, guys, to start be adopting the 2016 methods.
So good on you guys for jumping on that.
Yep, so just as an added bonus for coming to today's webinar, guys, encourage you to go to go.xpsolutions.com/ARR. You can actually download the current beta version of that ARR Storm Generator. If you want to just download it, see how it works, you give it a try with some previous models. There is an option there in the settings to be able to export to the previous version of XP Swim and XP Storm. So if you just want to download the current version, we are still working on this version of XP Swim and XP Storm, just in the final testing phase at the moment, just to make sure everything works, so you can be just as confident as we are that the answers you're getting are up to date and are consistent with the latest data.
Yeah, so guys, anyone that's on our current support system, you've been emailing us with your latitude and longitude of your sites, and we've been emailing that rainfall data back to you. You no longer need us. We'll obviously still be here for other support issues, but yeah, you can do it all yourself now.
Yep, so feel free to download that tool. If you have any feedback, don't hesitate to let us know.
All right, John, is there anything else we need to cover
No,
here?
I think that's it. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today and giving up your lunchtime to learn a bit more about the future of water engineering in Australia. And we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar.
Yeah, I hope we've made you feel a little bit more confident about, adopting this ARR stuff, and we'll see you next time.
Have a great one.